people think, oh, that's strange. Well, if they realized how little we can actually see, they would be shocked if they haven't come across it. Humans can see a tiny smear of reality. It's just in a tiny frequency band that we can decode into what we call a visual reality. And outside of that is infinity, by the way. Quite a lot more to know. That's when people say, they think they know all there is to know. What? You know all there is to know? It's like religion, right? Now, what a religion is saying, or most of it, is that all you need to know is between the covers of a single book, within a smear of 0.005% of the electromagnetic spectrum, when beyond it lies infinity. Now, I think on that basis alone, there's probably just a touch more to know than is there. And there's a touch more to know than mainstream science says it knows. So, it's like that great phrase from Socrates in ancient Greece, or I'm paraphrasing, wisdom is knowing how little we know.
What we call the world of the seen is actually a tiny band of frequency. And I mean tiny, so tiny it's laughable. According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe in terms of energy, mass, all that stuff matter. But you go through that and you go outside of our reality and to the world of the unseen. And people say, what do you mean, world of the unseen? You say there's some force behind this cult? Yeah. Well, where are they then? And then you say, well, when you look through your eyes, can you see everything that exists in the space you're looking at? And they'll go, yeah, of course you can, most people.
The brain is not who we are. It is a processor of information and a communicator of information. The radio is just decoding information. That's what the brain body is doing. The brain is dark but sees light. How is that possible? How can my brain be totally dark and I see this light? Because that light, in its prime form, like everything else, is just an information source. And I'm decoding that information source in here into the visual reality of light, because that's what the information contains. Thus, that's what it manifests when I decode it.
What we call visible light, which is the only band of frequency that we can see, is a smear, and that is the extent of the visual world of humans. And we are not seeing a world, we are seeing a band of frequency which our body systems and our senses can decode into a visual, interactive reality.
We are in a frequency band. We call it the world, we call it reality, but there are other frequency bands interpenetrating this one, like radio stations and television stations, sharing the same space.
Well, if you want to see internet expressions of the distortion, go on alternative media forums. You want to change the world? You are the world you want to change. What are you doing? All this abuse and stuff that goes on. And that's a frequency. It's a very low frequency. Yeah. It's a distortion. It's not the natural order to go on a website forum and hurl vile abuse at people.
We are points of attention within an infinite stream of consciousness. Goes across multiple dimensions, multiple realities into infinity. We're a point of attention. So your point of attention can be so tiny that you completely self-identify with the labels. And you might say, who are you? Or I'm Bill and I drive a bus. No. You are consciousness having that experience. You are not Bill, and you're not driving the bus is not who you are. It's what you're doing.
They want the population to think they are their name, their life story, their job, their sexuality, their religion, their race. When they're just experiences, the true I is consciousness. Having those experiences, they don't want us to know that. Because then we start to think in much more personal power terms and potential terms than I'm just Bill who drives a bus. No, your consciousness having an experience called Bill driving a bus. And the difference between these two worlds is simply knowledge. So they've set up this human world through the laughingly called education system and the media and all the forms of communication.
So what is the universe? It is information. And what is the universe? It is information decoding information.
You are consciousness. You're the consciousness that is an eternal expression of infinite states of awareness. So you can so focus attention that you believe you're Bill driving a bus, and that's who you are and nothing more.
It's just extraordinary, the self-denial that people have of what they really are compared with what they think they are. It's a frequency tussle, shall we say, of whether the frequency of balance is dominant over the frequency of distortion. And clearly in the world that it is, the distortion is king. Because how it works is, because it's a distortion, it has great limitations when it comes to what it can do, what it can manifest, what it can create, compared with balance, the natural order.
You can be a point of attention that expands its awareness and its sense of self and reality, and says, I am infinite awareness having the experience, whatever label you give it. And that is a completely different way of looking at life. When you think I am the labels, you are in the world and you are of it. Everything that you experience, all the information that you glean for your perception, comes from the belief that you are your labels. And of course, that is obviously going to give you a self-identity of limitation.
If you are manipulating the human population, what you have to do to keep them in your control is to control their perception, because everything is perception. I agreed to do this interview because of my perception of you. My perception of you had been different. I might have said, no, I won't do that. Everything is perception. What we will do, what we won't do, what we'll challenge, what we won't challenge, what we'll support, what we won't support, all comes from perception. All human behavior comes from perception. Simply control perception, you control behavior.
To keep people in the dark of all the things that they really need to know to understand what the hell's going on.
So therefore, that always keeps your mind open, because no matter what you know or think you know, one thing is absolutely certain and is undebatable. Whatever you know or think you know, there's always more to know. In fact, vastly, infinitely more to know.